conjunction with the Berkman Center for Internet and Society, and this methodology, it was developed by a fellow student of mine who is now a PhD, and started the company. His name is John Kelly, and he started a company called Morningside Analytics. So I just want to preface by saying this is not all my work. It's just something I've had the honor and privilege of being part of. And our initial working paper on this is available at, on the Berkman website. A lot of information about their research and this URL if you're interested. So Berkman has a 2-year project looking at internet and society in Russia, and they're doing a variety of things, including looking at Twitter and using a tool called Media Cloud that does word clouds, but in particular they're looking at the Russian language blogosphere, and that's where I have been helping them. Morningside Analytics themselves have looked at a lot of different countries, and the kind of takeaway from this slide is that one of the things that they've discovered is that the blogospheres of different languages, not countries, but languages, are specific. So there's a difference between the different blogospheres of different languages. And there is Russia over here. And that was the initial map. That's not what our final map looked like. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we got from this, which is what the initial map was, and also what the map means. To this, and then ultimately to this is what, and then actually to that, which is where we've identified and labeled the dots and the clusters. So, just to explain to what this is about, each of the dots on this map is a blog. The size of the dot is based on the popularity of the blog, how many links are coming into it. The position is based by inlinks. It's sort of a complicated model, and I'm not the person behind it, but essentially the more people, third parties, are linking to that blog, the closer they are together. And so that's what the position and the proximity is about. The colors are based on the outlinks, so what those blogs are linking out to. And I want to step back for a second and put this in context. The internet in Russia, penetration is about 35%. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, it's a lot higher. In Moscow, it's over 60. So we are talking about a select group of people, and then we're looking within that. So we cannot generalize from this, obviously, to all of Russia. So slowing down and moving on. What we did, and what the automated system that John Kelly developed does, is that it spiders an enormous amount of blogs. So we started with about 5 million and gathered data from them. Only about 1 million of them were active, and then we kind of went down into the ones that were most interlinked and came up with an active and interlinked, what we call discussion core, of about 11,000 blogs. And that is where you get the automated map without the labels, the colors and the dots. The next step is humans go in, and we had humans look at about 12,000 of these blogs and actually code them based on an online survey. What are these blogs about? What are some major topics? Gender. So we have demographics on 1,200. And based on this data, we came up with these labels. I'll go into that to keep me in track of how much time I have. So briefly, what is this clustering about? So here you have the US blogosphere and what the initial Russian one was. One of the things that we discovered, which was a specific of the Russian blogosphere, is that structurally it is different from the US. Now, in the US, in the way that John developed this model, it's over here, you have a distinction between the public and the private. We have our public blogs, which are kind of for the outside world, and we have our private social networking, which is Facebook and MySpace and so forth. And that's what it looks like. And in the US, you have these blog roles where in the public world, you have your blog, and then on the side, you have all the people that you're linking to. In Russia, you have what's called the social network hybrid. Because LiveJournal was the most popular in Russia, and it was the first one, and its model is more socially networked, and you've got friend list and not these blog roles. The sort of technological design of it structurally was different, and so it required us to modify our methods a little bit. And that explains why the initial map look like this because these are each platform specific. One of these is LiveJournal and so forth. So we had to kind of break through these platform specific walls in order to come up with a real map. And this is what it looked like when we got to sort of what we did is instead of looking at the broad role, we looked at the links inside the post themselves. So here's my blog post, what am I saying internally, who am I linking to? This is what all the platforms look like. This is what LiveJournal looks like. So we found that LiveJournal completely dominates. These are some of the other platforms. Singles are people who have their own model. I have 5 minutes, okay. The good news is that if you're interested in this, it's all on, a lot of it is on the Berkman website. So we focused in, this is the 11,000. We identified some areas. I'm going to kind of run through this. This is what we decided was the kind of the discussion core, the most interlinked, and this is the ultimate map that we got. So this is the automated map. And at that point, we started looking at the data with our 1,200 coders to try to identify what each of these colors represents, what kind of clusters there are. And so what we came up with is we identified 4 major groups. This is the area where we found the most sort of public discourse type of conversation. This is the more cultural conversation. And I want to be clear by saying that each of these labels is not singular. All that means is statistically more of the conversation of this type is going on here. That doesn't mean there isn't politics talked about here or culture here. In fact, one of the findings is how interlinked the blogosphere is. Instrumental means that those people are essentially trying to make money off of their blogs. There's something else. There's contextual advertising going on, search engine optimization, other things are going on inside the blog. The 4th group is the regional group. So where these are kind of clustered together. In the case of the regionals, you have one color, which means they're all paying attention to similar things, but they're kind of topic-wise spread across the map. Ukraine, Belarus, Armenia is very prominent, which might be interesting to you, Katie, Israel. And so these are some of the colors on the map sort of parallel match what the groups are. We identified about 35 different groups. We discussed them in the paper. Cultural was about 60%. It's not in this slide, but there's a lot of literature and movies and pop culture discussion, sociability. I'm going to roll through really quickly what some of the main news attentive ones. The Berkman paper is more focused on politics and news attentive. This was what we called internationally linking public discourse. So these are people who are linking to New York Times and sort of more internationally focused papers. Russian media is internal, more like Renaissance and Lenta. Business and finance. These are nationalist bloggers. We look at their outlinks and we look at what they're linking to and the content of their websites, and we determine that it's primarily nationalist content. And there's a wide range of what we call nationalist, from sort of Stalinist to Russian imperialist, to kind of a wide range of people. This is what we call democratic opposition. These labels are really challenging because we don't want to kind of essentialize anybody, and we're still working on it. A large cluster we found was very interesting. There's a lot of activism, philanthropy, social and environmental preservationists are all here. Another thing that you can do is pick a website and show who's linking to it. One of the things that's not in the slide, for instance, is that Oleg Kashin's blog, for instance. We have a slide showing who's linking to him. But this is what YouTube looks like. This is what Russian Wikipedia looks like. English Wikipedia less. Lenta also, you see that these are all major sites with a very big reach across clusters and in terms of position. We're just beginning to look and analyze all this data. And final finding is, if you look, now that you understand these maps a little bit more, one of the main things that we found that was interesting is that there is less, let me get on this side real quick. This is the liberal and conservative political groups of the US blogosphere. In Russia, we found that the groups are more intertwined. What we're thinking is that people are kind of listening to each other more, or there's more discussion. There's a variety of theories for why this is so. Maybe because those groups aren't so entrenched. Maybe because there's something culturally about the desire to kind of talk to the opposition or hear about the opposition or just say that you're kind of